Many thanks, Antti. So, the revolution is coming. I hope you are prepared for that. Well, actually, the digital revolution has already started. It has already happened. We all know the names like Amazon and Uber and Airbnb and so on. This picture is not done by myself, but it's one of my favorites because I think it shows very much what has happened in the market and with these new companies. And quite many of these new companies are actually on top 10 market value in the US stock exchanges. The financial revolution has actually already started. In the 90s, the online banking in Finland was a gigantic leap, and in the banking sector, it kind of saved the banking sector with its efficiency, and also automated credit decisions. They were launched a long time ago, and that was also something digital. Then there's a rise of shadow banking. It's estimated that 1/3 of the EU financial sector comes from shadow banking, which is not regulated, as we all know. Well, if you take a look at some recent market and financial evolution trends, we can see that there has been, and we all know, there has been rapid changes in the music industry. Uberization, it's expanding all the time. And if you take a look at the financial market, peer-to-peer lending is also expanding very much. That applies to crowdfunding as well. There are new entrants like niche banks that have entered the market in many countries. And then there's a very interesting German mobile bank, N26. And their marketing slogan is, "You never have to visit your bank again." That's quite interesting. Contactless payments, mobile payments, they were launched a couple of years ago in the UK, then in Finland, and have recently arrived to Sweden also. And then when it comes to reputational damage, that has hit some banks, due to Panama Papers and some fraud, anti-money laundering issues, and that might be a hit when it comes to customer loyalty. Well, what are the threats to the traditional banking sector then? There's an estimate that banks could lose up to 60% of their retail profits to fintech firms. I think that's an overkill, but anyway, even 40 or 30% would be much. Customer relationship platforms for new sales opportunities have weakened when people don't, visit their branches that much anymore. And the culture in the banks not always support the new technology and rapid changes. And of course, the IT systems in many old traditional banks are quite complicated and not that modern. Well, then how banks can meet these threats? They should move away from a culture based on selling products to another culture that embraces, the digital banking and new innovations. And banks need a stronger connection with their customers, because that's something they can really rely on and build on. Then, of course, the banks still have their huge balance sheets that they can use, and a large customer base, and a lot of customer data that's not always used at efficiency. And then it's crucial to offer an excellent digital customer experience. Well, the financing revolution continues, as we all know. Fintechs, they are the fastest growing branch in the fintech sector in the Nordics. And fintechs can remarkably improve the customer experience through appealing technology that we all more or less use even today. Then there are new market entrants like Apple and Google. They are launching their new services. Even Facebook payments is about to come quite soon. And then we have Swiss in Sweden, Siirto in Finland, Mobile Pay. These are the new platforms for payments between users. Uh, there's one interesting thing with the new modern techniques is that the new authentication options instead of PIN codes and tokens. And these are, iris scanning, voice recognition, and face recognition, fingerprint sensors, and palm vein sensors. And the last one is quite interesting, and that's nearly, as safe as can be. And if you think about secret agents films, you can't just cut off one's hand and use it, because the sensor needs to read the blood circulating in the veins. So it's as safe as can be. Then when we talk about fintechs and banks, there's quite new word, competition, that is cooperative competition. And that allows banks and fintechs, to work together and bring the most out of their cooperation. Many banks have joined fintech hubs and started partnerships with fintechs, and that's a very good thing. Working together, that's usually is the best way to achieve what you want. Open banking, then we'll see if that will change, the way banking as the online banking did about 30 years ago. Then there are new payment ecosystem that's being built, and new products are being built, and they are much more effective than those we had earlier. Then there's more financing revolution. I mean, we all know artificial intelligence, robotic processes, blockchain. There's been a lot of talk about blockchain even today. Open banking once more, and APIs and PSD2. There's one estimate, I think it was made by Accenture, that banks could lose up to 47% of their payment services income to new service providers. I don't know if that will happen, but that's quite big figure, as we all know. And then we have, of course, the GDPR. Well, how about the future of the financing revolution? If there will be deregulation in the USA, we'll see what will happen then, because that will absolutely have a very big impact on the financial market in the UK, in the USA, sorry. Then there are, of course, criminal activities. They're absolutely not to disappear, because always we know that when there are new inventions made, always the criminals will follow you. The cyber attack that happened a couple of days ago, that's a very good example of what happened and what can happen in the world. Then, of course, those who were best protected against cyber attacks, they didn't have that much problem with this attack. Then, of course, what will happen to branch offices? I think every bank, more or less, in the world, they are decreasing the number of their branches. But then, once again, I think quite many people want to have some kind of personal contact to their banks. But it might happen, once a year or every second year or whatever, but not that much. And the branches are not needed that so often. Then, of course, the opening hours that banks have, usually, for example, 9 to 4 or 9:30 to 4, whatever. So that is absolutely something that's going to be changed. I mean, even the you can repair your car or let your car to be served, make a service during the if not the night time, but in the evenings. So that's absolutely something that's going to be changed. And of course, I mean once again the N26 digital bank. There's a quite interesting story. A friend of my daughter, she's about her 20s. She was doing some online shopping, and nothing special, nothing extreme. But then the next day, when she tried to buy some food, she discovered that her card was blocked. And then she contacted her bank and asked what has happened. And the answer was that there was they had suspected some criminal activities. Okay, then they reopened her card, and actually the same thing happened next week again when she was doing some online shopping. And she received the same answer, but this time her card was totally blocked. And what did she do after that? Well, she changed actually to N26. That was her choice. And I mean, we all do understand why we have to, banks have to monitor all the card transactions and so on. But what this example really tells is that it's really easy to change a bank, change to an online bank, and often these younger people, they don't have that kind of ties to banks, traditional banks, than older people have. N26, they don't have any branches. They provide cash withdrawals and deposit services through supermarkets and stores in Germany. We'll see what will happen next, in what countries they will expand after that. But that's quite an interesting way to do banking in the modern world. Then there's one golden rule, that is that changes are often overestimated in the short run and underestimated in the long run. And actually, when we start to think of that, it is so. It very often happens that way. So what that means is that, of course, you should know what happens in the short run, but think about what it means in the long run. That's the most important thing. Another estimate is that the banking industry will evolve over the next 10 years more than ever. I don't know. I think hardly any one of us know what will happen during the next 10 years. But actually, 2027, we will know if that really is so, or what happened. Thank you. I think we haven't lost our moderator. That was it.